Well, howdy, everybody, while I harm him. Hi.
Promise.
No, you'd like it too much. Anyway, it is November 3rd. Thursday evening at
6:43 in the p.m.
Thursday evening. Did I say that? 2022.
Yes.
And today is Health Day, so we're going to update you on that. And then we're going to talk about this limited series on Netflix called Killer Sally's. Now, if you haven't watched it yet and you're wanting to, and you don't want to have a spoiler alert, then I will, after we talk about health, I'll tell you guys, and you can click off if you don't want to hear our opinion and stuff about it, because it might kind of, you know, it would be a spoiler alert. So, anyway, let's start with your health.
My health? Actually, wow. Actually, my health has been pretty good. My sleep is all jacked up, but other than that, you know, and I've been doing, I think we told you yesterday about me walking Jelly over to the office. And
yeah, you did.
Yeah, and paying our lot rent, and then, about me walking Jelly over and paying the rent. And then when we go into stores and stuff, I haven't been using the cart for probably close to a month now. And so
you're rotating around here pretty
good.
Yeah,
my walking's getting better.
The bike riding has really helped your knee.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, it hardly hurts at all. And I don't know if that's normal or, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that bump
bony.
right there. Yeah.
Called bone. You have a boner.
Knee. So,
Boner
but yeah,
knee.
yeah, that's been doing very, very well.
My health is, my sleep is all messed up. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Our sleep is messed up together, so I guess that's kind of a good thing in a way. I was having leg issues, which means I was having a leg infection because the lymphedema, the edema got worse, and then I developed an infection in the right leg lower down, and but I'm happy, very happy to report it is so much better today, and it doesn't hurt now. The redness the area has shrunken, and it never did really ooze a lot of pus or anything, and it quit leaking altogether, and it's looking a lot better.
It is. Looking
a lot better. I've been being good, though. I've been keeping it elevated. I've slowed down a lot. I think that's why I've been sleeping so much lately. Normally, I'm the type that if I slow down at all, I'll fall asleep. I've been known to fall asleep during car rides when we're talking. I mean,
yes.
And I've done that. Sometimes I kind of wonder if I don't have some narcolepsy, because, you know, I will fall asleep, you know,
mid-sentence.
Yeah, and I've done it since high school. We've been sleeping a lot more. We did take another nap yesterday afternoon, and then today, our sleep pattern, you guys, y'all, I mean, now we don't want to sleep till 7 or 8 in the morning at least. And then we've been trying to still get up like at 10 and do a whole day. Well, you can only do that for so long before you get so sleep deprived you can't even think straight, much less alone, you know, get much done. So we've been sleeping more. Today, we went to sleep at, about 8, and then we got back up about 10:30 or 10. We went back to sleep at 11:30, and we got up around 3:30. But we feel better.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, eventually it's going to go full circle around, and maybe we'll be back to nighttime sleeping. I hear some people do that at night. I can't believe it still. Some people do this at night. I can't believe it.
Well, remember your grandmother, when we did her shopping for her, you know, we were not allowed to show up at her house before 1.
No, she was always a night owl. That's where I get it from. I've always been a night owl, too. Yeah, I got it from my grandmother, totally. Yeah. So anyway, other than that, I feel good. You know, we've been getting more rest. We've been kind of trying to replenish our body that way. And, you know, both of our numbers are great diabetically.
Yep.
In fact, I need to cut back on the insulin again
Yeah.
because that's why I've been dropping too low in the morning.
Yep.
I could tell for a few mornings that I was fighting an infection because my numbers went up. And I knew I hadn't eaten anything that, you know, would make it go up that high. I mean, it wasn't over 200.
Yeah.
But for me, if it gets to be like 130 to 150, that's high for me. Usually I'm right around 100, you know, in the 110s. I mean, so, and that's pretty much what you are too.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's been dropping. Yesterday was 70 something. And
78.
And this morning was 89 and stuff. So I need to cut it back a little bit more. But other than that, we're doing good.
Well, she had
No
me...
bike riding this week, though,
sorry.
for me. Sorry.
No, she had me cut back on the Toujeo. Normally, or I was taking 60 units in the morning and 60 units in the evening, and she had me cut back to 50. And she said that if I start sticking above 130, that I need to go back up. And even with the lower dose, I've been usually between 90 and 110.
Right.
And so, you know, and more often than not, I'm in the sub 100s, you know, in the 90s.
One of the things that helps us, okay, we do keep peanut butter around. So, you know, if you haven't eaten enough protein and stuff, you know, a little tablespoon of protein, of peanut butter. Also, those applesauce pouches, you guys. I don't know how we ever got along without them before, because when we test, if we're kind of low, we'll have one of those. A lot of mornings, that's what we have for breakfast anyway. They're so convenient, too. If you're running out the door, you don't really have time to grab other snack stuff, grab one of those for each of you, you know.
And we've never been one much for convenience foods, you know. You know, there's so much of the stuff we do is from scratch.
Right.
But, you know, the little applesauce packets is, calorie-wise, they're very, very good. And,
yeah, I mean, it's just these,
you know,
and this is, it does have some fructose in it, but it's only 60 calories. Carb count is the same whether or not it's sugar-free or not, which is 16 grams of carbs. You know, this is a godsend. This is, we love these. And we get the best price. I buy 48 of them for, I think it works out 50 cents a pouch. So, you know, it's great.
Yep.
We love them, you know.
And
sometimes if I'm hungry late at night, I'll have one.
well, that makes
But I don't
sense.
want to have anything else that's, you know, real, you know, so.
Well, and you compared the sugar-free to the normal sweetened. And I don't remember, I know the numbers were really close. You know?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, the sugar-free has 10 calories more, you know. And the carb count, though, it's the same. And that's the main thing I was looking at, is the carb count. And it's the same. So, that's a godsend. So, and also, if your number is low when you're testing, a little bit of that fructose helps.
Yep.
It helps. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And one of the things I've been doing is they recommend, if you're a diabetic, to be very...
You just spit on me.
You liked it, didn't you?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They do recommend that you're very cautious on how much fruit you eat. And if I remember right, I was told to have no more than 2 fruit servings a day. And
stay away from the real high sugar. Like, I mean, apples is one of the good ones because it doesn't have as much sugar naturally, and it's got more fiber in it.
Yeah. And Teresa bought some pears. And normally I don't like store-bought pears. I almost said Starbucks pears. I normally don't like store-bought pears because they're hard as a rock. They have no taste, but these have been just outstanding. And then she bought me a bag of plums, and same thing.
Have you had any of them?
Oh yeah, they're very,
you haven't said anything to me.
Yeah, the plums are very, very good.
They were nice, big ones
And
too.
they're huge. You
and
know?
they were with the produce. We're getting it from Aldi's, and yes, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I don't know how many plums I bought him over the years that just never ripened and were
Except for in Las Cruces.
Yeah.
And I ate so many plums, I made myself sick. But you know, I've got these pears that I want to eat them before they go bad, and I think I've only got one left. The plums, same thing. I want to eat them before they go bad. I've got blueberries in there. I gotta eat them before.
Blueberries are good for you as a diabetic.
Yeah,
they are.
You know.
We have some red grapes in there. You know, we have bananas. Of course, you've got to watch how many bananas you have and stuff. So, but everything's going well. So I'm not complaining. So my asthma's pretty much in check. So yeah, your asthma's pretty much in check. So yeah,
everything is good.
I'm still smoking, but that is what it is, and yeah, I'll cross that bridge, you know, when I'm ready to. Which you know, that's my only vice. And I like to have a little bit of chocolate at night. I still have a little bit. I will save my carbs so I can have just that little bit of chocolate. And I have cut way back on what I was having. But I do like to have, and that's a reward for me, just a little bit. I will count out my M&Ms now. I can tell you can have 32 plain M&Ms for, I think it's 140 calories. And not too many carbs. So I will eat those one by one and let them melt in my mouth.
Yep.
And I'm a happy camper. And you'll have some too. You know. But anyway, now we want to talk about the Killer Seller. Killer Seller?
Both of us.
We cannot speak today. Killer Sally. Limited series on Netflix. So if you haven't watched it, and you want to, and you don't want to have a spoiler alert, then I would click off of this now. I love you and everything else. So, you know.
Can I say something on that?
Yes, you may.
Actually, you really don't have to worry about a spoiler alert, because this started happening in the 90s.
But if people, I hadn't heard of the case until now, had you?
No, that's true too.
I mean, you know, even if you think you know about a movie, but somebody tells you details, and you're like, oh, no, I don't need to watch it.
Well, and then some people are really, really bad about, if they're watching something on TV, that they automatically go online and do a lot of research on it.
There ain't more. I like that, though, because I'll ask you, okay, what'd you find out?
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so those of you that didn't want to, you know, have it be spoiled, have left the room. And the rest of you that maybe have started watching the series, have watched it.
I think it's only 3 episodes.
I don't know, but didn't plan on watching it. But now you're going to. Lord. Now, I'm going to probably have we're going to do a quick run through, and then I'm going to give my opinion. And it's probably going to really surprise you guys once I tell you a little bit of my background. So, the whole case is that this man and this woman were married. They were both bodybuilders. He turned pro. They got married after only 2 months of meeting each other. She already had 2 children from a previous marriage. Anyway, they were both in the Marines at the time. He turned pro. She stayed in the Marine. Then she started doing like wrestling things, private videos and stuff to earn money. But in the course of this, he was beating on her, so they say. She was beating on him. She had a pretty extensive, even in the military, of being very violent and confrontational with people. Long story short, she ends up killing him on Valentine's Day. Shoots him. Now, shoots him with a shotgun. States that he was choking her. She's always stated that that's what he loved to do. Now, before this, they both started taking steroids. she would drive down to Tijuana, because they lived in California at the time, with her 2 children in the vehicle to go buy steroids. And she had a secret compartment in her car that she would hide them in. So anyway, she shot him with a shotgun. She stated he was choking her. She shot him once. It hit in his upper abdominal. She unloaded, or she reloaded, which means she had to get the previous shotgun shell out of the chamber and reload. Then went and shot him again, this time in the face, blowing off his lower jaw. 911 call, which they played. She's very calm.
Yeah.
She's not hysterical, upset, anything. Very matter of fact. The 911 operator, who happened to be male, asked, who is that I hear crying in the background? And she said, oh, it's my daughter. Her daughter is hysterical. So, they're interviewing her while she's in prison. I find a lot of holes in her whole story. We haven't finished watching it yet, but I'm too excited, I have to tell you. I have been I was married one time before the lovely Mr. Heidi. I was married 5 years too long to my first husband. I am a survivor of domestic abuse. I never thought enough of myself to get out. You get so beat down that you don't think anything of yourself, and you don't think that you can ever survive without that person, because they make sure and tell you that all the time, and how you are nothing. But when he started beating on the girls, I took and ran with them, nothing more than the clothes on our back. So anyway, I find holes in this. First off, even when she's doing her interview in prison, she is very unemotional. She is very tough. But she's always been very tough. All of her saying that she prides herself on being one of the strongest women around.
One of the things I remember saying is that her mannerisms reminded me of a lot of the women we saw on
60
Days In,
yep.
A lot of the inmates.
Yeah. Her mannerism kind of reminded me of an even harder Tanya Harding. She could bench press her husband. She could do squats with him.
Yeah.
There's videos of it.
And he was 260 pounds.
Yeah, huge guy. So she's very unemotional. She's always a victim in all of this. Even though there's recounted reports of, even when she was in the military, of her getting into fights with people, beating people up, being hostile. She even beat up a police officer. You know, she was known for this. Also, you did this with your children in the house, in the apartment? Now, after you shot him, first off, how can you grab a shotgun if you're being choked? That's really hard to do. That's actually impossible, really, to do.
Especially when the shotgun was in another room.
Right. So you shoot him the first time. You know he's dying. He's bleeding out. So you leave him in the front room, because now they think that he was now laying on the floor, even though she says he was standing up. Most people, when they get shot and they're bleeding out, they don't just stand there, oh, I think I'll just bleed out now. You know, but so she leaves him there. She goes in the bedroom, because that's where they found the shell, ejects that to put in a new one and reload, pump it, go back out to the front room, stand over him and shoot him in the face. She laughed at me once I heard that she shot him again and had to reload. I'm like, nah. She doesn't, anybody who's been in a domestic abuse situation, whether it's male or female, you're so beat down, you think nothing of of yourself. How was I when you met me?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I was very mousy, very mousy.
And I had to be very careful how I moved.
Right.
Because even though I've never hit you or anything, if I moved too quickly,
if he moved his hand too fast to make a gesture or anything. Not like he was going to hit me, but just, you know, I mean, I would have nightmares and stuff. I think he's the one that would be more abused. His family and even her son recounts that, you know, they had been in a lot of fights and that she was very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. The night just happened. Okay, he was having an affair. I guess he'd had affairs with numerous women. He was having a long-time affair with this one woman he said he was totally in love with. He wanted to end things with Sally and be with this woman. Sally knew this. The night it happened, Sally said she's standing there putting on her makeup because her husband didn't come home. And she said that he was supposed to spend the night with her, not with his whore. So he walks in and asks her what she's doing, and she said, well, I'm putting on my makeup to go look for you. Then the fight ensued. So I think she is right where she needs to be. Domestic abuse is domestic abuse. I think there's far more men who are domestically abused than we ever will know of. Because men have a hard time admitting, and you can't blame them, how society views roles. That a man's supposed to be big and tough and you know, and, you know, I mean, they teach you that boys shouldn't ever hit girls. They don't teach you, you just shouldn't hit anybody. Which is really what should be taught. You just shouldn't hit anybody. We all get mad. There have been times I wanted to slap the crap out of you. I haven't, but I wanted to. He even said sometimes, well, go ahead and hit me. And I'm like, nope. I want to, but I'm not gonna. You know. But, I mean, I think it was a very how do I say that?
Traumatic?
No, tumultuous.
Tumultuous.
Thank you. Relationship. She was the one that made all the money. Pro bodybuilders do not make that much money. They're both hopped up on steroids. He had 5 different types in his system. With the autopsy, she had 1. She was very, very aggressive of an individual anyway. I mean, you can see the videotape where she's, you know, flip-flopping these guys all around the bed and stuff. I mean, she really got off on this. So did the guys. But, and I mean, some people just are that way. They just like that. I mean, you know, whatever floats your boat. But she made all the money. Reminded him all the time that she is the one that made all the money. And she wanted to very much control him. She could have escaped the relationship at any point in time. He traveled out of town for different competitions. She could fly clear across the country to meet these different men in motel rooms to have these private wrestling sessions, right?
And she said there was no sex involved. It was just basically tossing them around and humiliating them.
Yeah, and that's what she got off on, and that's what they got off on. Whatever. But she could have escaped. You could have escaped easily when he was out of town. You know, you could have said you were going back to, she was from Pennsylvania, you could have said you were going to visit your parents and taking those kids. You could have, you already shot him once. You could have taken your children, gotten out of that apartment, and had a neighbor call 911. You could have, and not shot him again. You could have taken your children, gone in the bedroom with them, and called 911. You didn't have to reload, stand over the top of him, and blow his jaw off. And traumatize your children. Who witnessed this? Who witnessed this? You know? But she wants to play the victim right now. She didn't want to talk about her being very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to play the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were two people very hopped up on steroids. Very, very aggressive people. We'll never know totally what went on there. Because he can't talk, and I don't think she's ever going to tell the total truth. You know. She wants to play the, you know, because she's only 5'3". Well, I don't care. I'm 5'3" too, alright? I used to be a lot taller, but now I've shrunk. By the time I get done aging, I will be a pile of just tiny goo.
4'8".
That's probably,
Yep.
you know. But anyway, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. She didn't have a low self-esteem. Anybody, male or female, that's in a domestic abuse situation usually has a very low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Yep. Yep.
You know.
No, do you mind if I speak?
You may speak now,
okay.
mister.
I'm a little more believing that the abuse was mutual than you know. Actually I do think his name was Ray McNeil and
Yeah.
her name is Sally McNeil.
Right.
And I believe that a little more abuse came from his side, but I don't believe that she was.
Don't leave that weird.
I don't believe that she was purely innocent.
No.
You know, especially with all of the records of the violence she exhibited when she was in the Marine Corps,
Right.
and the number of times that the cops had to been called on them for domestic violence. But I don't think she was an angel in this either. Like Teresa said, when they did the autopsy, he had 5 steroids in his system, and she only had 1.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things, you know, I wasn't real serious about bodybuilding, but you know, I did some weightlifting and stuff.
Yeah, I used to
and
too.
I enjoyed it. And one of the things that I was so disillusioned when I found out was the number of pro bodybuilders that would test positive for steroids.
Yeah.
And back in the 90s, they had 2 different tournaments, and like the Mr. Olympia, and those were that was the big dog on the block. And they also had a tournament, and it was Mr. Natural USA. And these guys, they would test them for steroids, and if they had any steroids in their system, they were not allowed to compete. And you look at these, and the guys on the Mr. Natural USA, I don't remember the exact name, you know, they were not nearly as big, but they still looked phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. They weren't as cut.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
The striations and stuff.
And a lot of things I read too on the steroid use is once these people started taking steroids, that they just bulked up. And they just bulked up tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you notice that, like when Arnold was competing in the Mr. Olympia, when he won his first one, he was competing. He's 6'3", and he was competing at I believe between 205 and 215. And now you've got guys that are 5'6" competing at 285 pounds. Yeah. You know, just to show how much they bulked up.
Yeah.
But a lot of it with the steroids is pretty much all of the big name bodybuilders have all admitted to they've taken steroids, which is, it's really, really sad.
It is.
You know, you look at how what's the biker's name?
Lance Armstrong?
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. You know how he was hung out to dry for steroids, but yet these guys.
Well, I was going to say, I don't understand why that is not like any other sport, and why it is allowed in that sport, but not, you know.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, they both admitted to, or she had admitted for both of them, that they had done steroids.
Well,
and,
it admitted it during the toxicology of the autopsy report.
And the number of the amount of steroids, with her having to go into Mexico to buy the steroids, and the number of articles I've read and shows I've read about roid rage. It is really, really scary.
Well, that's how him and that DJ became good friends, because DJ was getting steroids, but he would actually buy extra and then sell it to Ray.
To Ray, okay.
And that's how they started the steroid thing, and then it was way too expensive that way even, and
But back to she tried to act like she was the innocent victim. She hadn't done anything, one of the things I noticed, and we already talked about this, was her attitude struck me so much as the same as some of the inmates that we saw in 60 Days In. Just the same attitude, same carriage of the body, and everything like that.
She's still very aggressive and very tough.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what her disciplinary record is there in prison.
Yeah.
I would.
Oh, yeah. And then another thing I always wondered, in fact, I said something to Teresa, is I knew it was a pump shotgun. And I have a lot more experience with guns than Teresa. And, I kept hearing how she reloaded and shot him again. Well, a pump shotgun, most of them, they hold anywhere from 3 to 8 in the magazine. And I know in Wyoming it used to be that you could not have any more than 3 in a shotgun. And that was the law. And they did have a plug where you could pull the plug and you could get a full 8 in the magazine. And, when they said, she reloaded and shot him again, and I thought what she'd done is she'd put 2 in the magazine, and then she,
just repumped it?
Yeah, she had 2 in the magazine, she pumped 1 into the chamber, and then she shot him and then pumped it again.
Right.
Well, one of the things I didn't realize was that, she said that she had the second shell in her hand. Is what she claims, and then after she shot him once and he was still standing there, she ejected the spent cartridge and put another shell in and shot him a second time. Well, I didn't realize until she said that she had the second shell in her fingers that she was pulling the trigger with, that's how she had the second shell. That does take a little more time to load a shotgun. And then one of the things we found out later is that the spent cartridge from the first shot was back in the bedroom. So what that says to me is that she shot him once and he was still exhibiting signs of life, and then she walked back into the bedroom. She loaded another shell into the magazine. She ejected the spent shell into the bedroom, because that's where they found the spent shell, and then she walked back out and shot him again. So, those are the big things that I saw that I really, really questioned.
Well, and then she stated that she shot him, and then he turned around, and that's when she shot him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you walk around to his backside then? Because they show he was shot from the front for the abdominal too. And no, what they think happened is she shot him. Of course, he dropped to his knees and then, all the way down on the floor. And then she went to the bedroom and, reloaded and came out and shot him right in the face.
Yeah.
And the blood splatter and material all shows that.
Mm-hmm.
Like up underneath the lamp and stuff.
Yeah.
It could only have been that way.
If he was laying on the ground.
Right. So, I don't know. See, this is what we do. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about some updates and some stuff been going on with the Quentin Simon case. And it has to do more with the protesters. So, we're going to be talking about that. We'll be doing a bit more research on that. Because, evidently we just, this is what we sit around and do.
We have no life.
And we enjoy it.
We do.
And honestly, there is not a whole lot for us to talk about our day-to-day life with you guys. It's pretty boring.
Yep.
For you guys.
Yep.
You know, because, I mean, okay, we sit around, he does some woodworking, and he does jewelry making, resin pouring. I sit around right now, I've been doing more loom knitting because I have to keep this leg elevated. Other than that, I paint and I do some other stuff. You know, we both share in the housework. You know, we kind of keep the cooking at a minimum when one or the other doesn't feel real good, because, you know, like when we just had fish fillets, you know, the breaded, we love those things. And then we had a few French fries, which we normally feed the dogs most of the French fries, but anyway, they're not complaining.
Yep.
You know, and the biggest thing we tell you then, too, is we double whammied the dogs. Brad gets one dog brush, I get another dog brush, and we go for the big dogs, and he takes one end of them, I take the other, and Charlie, we just watch him he groans, and he don't know which way to go at this point in time. Nixie was the same way, we just did that with her. Now, Jelly Bean's just a one brush person, because, you know, she's a lot smaller. Update on her, she's feeling much better. She still got some diarrhea, which I had to go out and clean up in the front room, you know, but she seems to be feeling better, you know, so tomorrow we're going to give you guys an update on what we think about this Quentin Simon case and the protesters and all of that. Probably going to do true crime at least twice a week. Maybe we'll give you updates during that, and we're going to roll in the show and tell. We're going to do it together on Saturdays because, you know, it doesn't take very long for each of us to do our show and tell. And that way, also then Saturdays we'll have a little bit more time to investigate whatever case we're talking about. Now, we're going to be talking about this Sunday about the Casey Anthony case, which is pretty, a lot of the stuff is mirroring some of the stuff that's going on with Quentin Simon in a way.
One of the things I would like to say is I don't remember her name, but I really, really appreciate all the information. Do you remember who that was?
I don't. And you were the very first comment, though, on last Sunday, and you gave a whole rundown.
Yep.
You filled us in with even some information we didn't know, and I really appreciate all the time you took to write all that down, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And so did he.
Yes.
I'm like, all right. You know, we love that. So, you know, and if you even think our information is wrong or you've heard something else or some new facts have come out, please engage.
Yep.
You know, we love a good debate, or, you know, like that. Brad and I'll sit around and talk about. I get so excited, too. Like, because we haven't even done watching this Killer Sally. And I'm like, Brad's like, you can talk about it now? It's like, I got to.
Yep.
I got to.
Don't want to watch the end of it? Got to talk about it now.
Got to talk about it now. You know, because, well, too, I'd always brush my hair and stuff, you know. So, I got to talk about it now before it gets real late.
Yep.
You know, but, Kathy, my fever's gone. I had a little bit of a fever when I was running around the house earlier, but the leg is much, much, much better. I'm not going to ride the bike. I haven't ridden the bike for today makes the third day. But I'm being good about it. You know, and I figured today I wouldn't jostle the leg around a whole bunch either. Yeah. You know, I'm going to take care of this leg. I don't want to be in the hospital. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, domestic abuse, I think instead of us teaching our young men, you should never hit a girl, we should teach. You should never hit anybody. Male and female, just broadband, you should never hit anybody. Well, I don't know why. A lot of times it's like, oh, well, if a woman hits a guy, it should be okay.
Yeah.
Because after all, most of the time he's bigger and stronger, right? No, you just shouldn't be hitting each other, period. And, you know, it doesn't matter if that person has a gun, it's a great equalizer.
Yep.
You know, it's a very sad case. It's a very, very sad case. Those kids are clearly still traumatized to this day. Probably always will be. Yeah,
and the murder occurred on Valentine's Day of 1995. Right. So, you know, 27 years ago.
Yep.
So, and I want this shirt. Did you make this before we got married?
No.
Oh, okay. This shirt is real close to probably 34 years old,
No, it's
And
about 30 probably.
no, because we're still on Lennox, weren't we?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I thought we were.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but 30-year-old shirt, and this is the very first shirt I think you made for me.
Mm-hmm. The only shirt I ever made for
The
you.
only shirt, yes. And here, 30 years later, I'm still wearing it. It's almost too warm for North Carolina, but it's nice to wear around the house because different rooms of the house depends on, you know, how the
Like
ventilation.
this room is warmer back here
Yeah.
than the front bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we try every night. We say, okay, you can go sleep in your room, and I'm going to sleep back here. And then it comes 6 o'clock, which is like we call the wishing hour, 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when you coming back here?
Yep. Yep.
You know, so.
Well, I got to go feed the pups.
Okay, I got to.
Do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I love you guys, and I do cherish your friendship so very much. So does he.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't, go ahead, please like and subscribe, share with your friend, and please leave a comment because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
And
even if it's contradictory to everything you said.
Of course.
You know.
There may be a whole buttload of stuff we didn't see or new findings. It's always evolving. I think that's what makes true crime so intriguing, you know, and it almost makes you feel almost normal because some of the things these other people do is like, wow.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and I always love a good debate.
Yeah, me too. Do something nice for somebody else. Do something nice for yourself. And as always, everybody say bye, Brad.
Bye, Brad.
Bye, guys.